strangers or just friends you haven't met yet. Very hard to pick one thing. Yeah, I would have to stick with the very generic answer of just when it's good. Oh, that's terrible. Yeah.
Good morning, everyone. It is soon Christmas, so I'm sitting here next to my Christmas tree, just enjoying the light and the glitter and the sparkle. It is time for Friends on Friendship Part 3 already, and this time I asked my friend Kat what is the hardest part about friendship and what is the most rewarding part about friendship. So the same two questions that I've asked my previous two friends, and you can see those interviews, a link to them down below. This time I didn't have the chance to interview her face to face, so instead she recorded herself answering those questions. And excuse the quality of the film this time, but I really wanted to post it anyway because I think she has some really interesting stuff to say. Yeah, so let's listen to Kat and what she has to say about friendship.
I wrote screeds and screeds. I wrote like a whole essay in response to these two questions just to get my brain juices going. So, you asked what the hardest thing about friendship was. What's hard for me about friendship is being myself and trusting that I'm enough. Just me. This video is just me talking, sharing my brain information. It's very hard for me to be myself. And that's a theme of a lot of friendships that I've had, is that I always feel like I'm not good enough, I'm not deserving. And I don't want this to turn into some sort of self-deprecating rant. So that's the hardest thing, is just being yourself. I'll consult my notes because that'll help. Being yourself and not fearing judgment. I know that's wrong to even say that in the context of friendship. That's the whole point of friends, is it's people who accept you for you and they don't judge, and they like you because of all the things that you are and all the things that you bring to the relationship and to life. But for me it's always a thing, just never being enough, never being good enough, never being a good enough friend. So I've tried to condense it down into actual points so that I'm not just waffling on. Giving your contribution equal value. So when you're in a friendship with someone, it's realising that it's a dialogue and it's not just a case of it's a balanced thing. There's an equilibrium. I always feel like I get so much more than I give from my friendships. But that's not actually true. You give as much as you get. Whatever you bring is whatever you bring. Not being too wrapped up in yourself. So again, just generally being aware that it's not all about you. There's another person. The things you say affect them. You can make them feel good and bad and everything in between. And realising that you're not just a passive. Friendships aren't passive. And that leads me to the next point. Maintaining a friendship, that's really hard sometimes as well. I think that's the sign of a good friendship, is one of those ones where you don't have to see each other very often. It can be weeks or months between seeing each other, but when you meet up again, it's like no time has passed and you just feel so comfortable with each other that it's effortless. That's a true friendship. But at the same time, friendships do require work, so you need to invest You need to invest yourself, your time, your effort. There's got to be a balance of being yourself, but also doing enough. You don't just sit back and it all happens magically. You have to invest yourself. Being supportive, not being too needy, is walking a fine line. So it's just knowing when to be there, when to give people space. That's always something that's quite tricky, or it can be. Because sometimes you can feel like you're being too intense in a relationship, in a friendship, and other times you realise you've maybe not spoken to the person for ages and you haven't checked in with them. And for me, that's usually my stuff. It's usually I've become too wrapped up in myself, and I tend to think, oh, no one's going to care, or I don't want to burden people with my problems or whatever. But that's the whole point of a friendship, you know. That's what you're there for. I want to be there for my friends. Have to remind myself that it's a two-way street. Not panicking that you'll fuck it up. That's another one. Once you've established a friendship with someone and you've realised, you know, that there's mutual appreciation there, and you value them, and you find them interesting, you like spending time with them. It's like with any relationship, whether it's platonic or otherwise, there's always that moment where you realise that you're invested in it, and you then panic that you're going to lose it or something, or you're not enough for the person, and they're going to see through all the facade. They're going to realise that you're actually really dull and selfish, and they're going to see all your flaws and abandon you, I guess. This is getting quite Freudian. My last point about the hard things about friendship: accepting that it's a changeable thing. It's not fixed. You don't make friends with someone and that's it. Friends forever. Like I said, you have to invest yourself, you have to find the balance, it's give and take. You have to not be too dependent nor too distant. You need to find that sweet spot. Also, having the self-assurance that sometimes friendships don't last. People go their separate ways, and that's okay as well. That's what makes friendships for me better than relationships, like boyfriends or partners or whatever. Because they provide so much more, and there's less. They're not necessarily less intense, but there's something lighter about them. There's less, not that there's less at stake. It's quite hard to describe. I feel like it's something that you hold it more gently in your hands than you would in a relationship with someone, in a loving, like a romantic relationship, where it's kind of like it's so intense and you're so bound up in each other that if it goes wrong, your whole life explodes because you're so invested. Whereas with a friendship, it's just like a nice, light connection that you have, and you can have a lot of the same elements as you do in a romantic relationship. In some ways it can be deeper. My point was accepting that is not necessarily forever as well. But I guess it's not something that you think about every day. You don't think, oh, when's this person going to leave? Nothing lasts forever. And that can be quite hard. Talking to your friends is what helps with the hard parts of friendship. Everything is hard sometimes, and the good thing about friendships is they're self-sustaining. If you invest yourself and if you make the effort, and if there's value in it for both of you, then it's wonderful. Which leads me neatly into the most rewarding parts of friendship. So I said the hardest part about friendship was being yourself, to balance that out. The most rewarding part is when you manage to be yourself and people still like you. That's amazing. Because sometimes for some people it can be the biggest challenge just to be yourself, and it shouldn't be that hard. Yeah, you manage to get over all your insecurities and neuroses and trust people enough to just be yourself, and they still like you, and then it's like a massive relief, because you think, well, that's great, I can just be me, and this person likes me for me, and we have a connection, and it just builds from there. That's the start of good friendships, is based on honesty and truthfulness. Another rewarding part is to care for someone and to be cared for. That's just a wonderful, wonderful thing. All the people who I count as my friends are people who I have tremendous esteem for, people who I just enjoy, who I respect, who I think are interesting. I have great affection for them and admiration and just all sorts of good things. They're people who enrich my life immeasurably, and that's why I choose to be friends with them, because it's a choice. You choose people that appeal to you, but at the same time I feel really lucky, I feel very honoured that they have chosen me as well. When you feel that someone else, when it's a genuine friendship, and you have these moments where you realise that you mean as much to them as they do to you, and that just grows, it just builds, and you feed off of each other. And it's like the sun, it's like you're the sun shining on them and they shine back at you, if that makes sense. Being able to open up to someone as well, that's a huge part of friendship for me, is talking, as I seem to be very good at just waffling on, and I'm quite paranoid about it sometimes, that I do talk. Sometimes I can be really quiet, and then when I get going, I just can bang on about nonsense forever, usually related to me. But then when I flip that round and I think about other people opening up to me, then I feel privileged when other people want to share stuff with me. So you have to remember that that's a mutual thing, and being able to do that with someone, being able to really open up and be honest and be vulnerable and share your thoughts and your opinions and your worries, your fears, especially when it's stuff that if you're in the middle of something and you don't necessarily see a solution or an end, or if you're really stuck in life and feeling hopeless, that's a sign of true friendship as well, is when you've got people who you can speak to when you're in the midst of horrendous depression, for example, and you know that they're there. That's all they need to do. That's all they need to be. They just need to be there. They don't need to have all the answers. They don't need to do anything. Just knowing that someone cares is massive in terms of the emotional support that it provides. That's beyond value. That's what friendship is all about to me. I mean, having a good time, obviously, and shared interests, all the other things. Sharing moments, that's my next thing on my list. the things that bring you together in the first place. You know, you might meet someone because you go to the same sporting activity. I'm in a choir, you know, shared interests, art, music, whatever it is. You can meet people in the most random situations. Sometimes you meet people who you have nothing in common with whatsoever, and you just connect. I love that. It's so intangible, what makes you connect with someone. Sometimes it can just be alcohol, which is also a strong force of friendship. But that can be valid as well if it helps you reach a higher plane together. That's a powerful thing. It's all those moments that make up friendship where you're maybe, they're good and bad. You can share terrible times, you can share wonderful times, you can have ridiculous memories of doing stupid stuff, supporting each other through difficult times as well. All those moments make friendship better and more meaningful and stronger. And the last thing I have is to know that you're not alone in life, which I guess has a kind of sad slant as well. It's very easy to feel alone because you can be in a room full of people, but if none of them are your friends, then you can still feel lonely among all those people. So it's having that connection. Like, I'm sitting in this room on my own right now, but doing this video makes me feel connected to you because, well, obviously, and that makes me feel good because it reminds me of our friendship and how wonderful it is. 10 years, and having the connection that we have, as with all of my good friends, that's the most rewarding, one of the most rewarding things about friendship. So I hope I've covered everything. Hardest thing about friendship, being yourself. For me, yeah, because I struggle with that every day, getting better at it. But that's always been the hardest thing, because yeah, when you're very insecure and all the rest of it, it's a struggle. Because it's other people's judgment, that's what it is. It's, yeah, fear of other people's opinions. So somebody needs to make that, the leap of faith from being just a person. You know, they say strangers are just friends you haven't met yet. And that's the thing. Someone making that jump from being a stranger to being a friend. And it's that commitment to saying, you're a nice person, I'm going to give you a chance. So it's taking that chance and in return saying, okay, this is me, this is who I am. That's the hardest thing. And the most rewarding part is when that pays off and all works out and you discover that it was a good decision and making that leap was worth it because you've found a wonderful person in the world to connect with. It's friendship chemistry. It's the spark. When you have that with someone, it's a wonderful thing. Real connection with good people. I think I'm done. This is the first time I've ever done this, so probably quite a lot of editing will be required, but I hope I've given you something useful. This is afterthought. This video has been the hardest thing about friendship and the most rewarding, because it was very hard for me to sit here and talk about this and kind of give myself the validity, validating my own opinions, airing them. Yeah, that was hard, but I did it. And so it's actually been a really rewarding experience, because I've done this thing for you that you asked me to do. It's made me reflect on a really interesting issue, and it's sort of contributed to my personal growth. So yeah, it's so meta. This actual process has been simultaneously the hardest thing and the most rewarding thing. Is making the effort, being yourself, making the effort, giving what you can, and then what you get back from that as a result. That's friendship, isn't it? That's life. It applies to everything. Yeah. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to do this. It's been really good. Yeah. Thank you. Bye.
And that is it. Thank you so much for watching. Do you agree with her about friendship being easier than romantic relationship? What do you think? Just leave a comment. I will see you tomorrow, I think, or maybe in a couple of days. It depends. Anyway, thank you so much for now. Have a lovely day. Bye.